I wanted to do that but a little bit of a disconnect. Hey guys, it's your girl Ari, aka Nadia Sabe, aka Princess of the Darkness, aka Lil G, all that kind of stuff. I look a little crazy today. I've been wearing makeup a lot this week, and I just needed a break from all of the stuff on my face. So, yeah, I'm kicking it back. I'm comfy. I got my bunny slippers on. So yeah, they're really dirty. I wear them outside. Anyways, we're just gonna get right into it. We're gonna have a relatively short podcast today. No new music. Just a bunch of industry updates, but some really interesting stuff. And there's another story that I'm going to talk about at the end that I find really, really interesting that I just read all about. So, starting off, U.S. headquartered record label and distributor Sync Music Group has named Amanda Tumulty as its new vice president of global marketing. Next, after a protracted litigation, BMI won a 138% historical rate increase against Live Nation, AEG, and the North American Concert Promoters Association, or NACPA, representing the largest concert promoters in the world. However, instead of accepting the court decision that songwriters deserve more, a troubling narrative emerged. These billion-dollar companies once again responded by claiming this increased income would not be taken out of their plentiful profits, but would instead be taken from performing artists' shares. Their response is a common obfuscation that must be addressed. They claim they cannot afford to pay songwriters more than they already pay when they already pay artists so much. Meanwhile, they have complete control over their revenue models. They offer free services, some indefinitely, and slash the cost of bundled music subscriptions in some cases to zero. This again puts the burden on creators, not the massive tech companies who need and benefit from them. So I think this is really interesting. Once again, BMI was able to, like they're saying, win a case with a historical rate increase that was specifically towards Live Nation, AEG. And they basically said, hey, you guys are going to get this money, but not from our profits. It's going to come out of your co-writers who are, performing the songs. And this is, one of the things, essentially trying to sow a divide amongst artists and songwriters. It's really unfortunate, and hopefully we can make some change about it, but it's just going to have to, there's going to have to continue to be more conversation, and people are going to have to know about it, because if you don't know about it, you can't be upset about it. So, yeah, moving forward, the recently launched Human Artistry campaign, which is trying to set guidelines for the use of creative AIs, has added more than 25 new members. They include a number of music industry organizations, including AIM, the Featured Artists Coalition, Impala, WIN, ICMP, and various regional bodies. They joined the likes of IFPA, RIAA, BPI, and MPA, and Sound Exchange, who were the founding members when the campaign launched in March. As Music Ally recently reported, the U.S. trademark for Human Artistry Inc. campaign was filed by Universal Music Group. All very interesting and something to pay attention to and either, support if this is something that you care about. I think that at least having committees and organizations like this who are looking into AI and the future of all this kind of stuff, and specifically where that places us with intellectual property and protecting people first, I think that that's really, really important. So I am definitely going to be continuing to kind of divert my attention to this campaign, and I hope that you guys do as well. Okay. Next, we have Tencent Music Entertainment Group, the leading online music and audio entertainment platform in China, announced that its QQ Music has launched the global original music competition, The One. And global music media brand Billboard China will be the exclusive media partner for this competition. So I think that that's pretty fun, a new music competition. Live Nation's charitable partner, Music Forward Foundation, presents an all-access fest, the world's most unique job fair and one of the only free career fairs for youth devoted to the music and live entertainment industry jobs. It's going to be taking place Wednesday, April 26th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Los Angeles' legendary venue, the Wiltern. Nearly 1,000 diverse students from high schools throughout Southern California and colleges around the West are expected to attend. If you're in the area, I would definitely check that out. definitely a really cool resource and possible opportunity there. The representative body for music streaming services, DEMA, has published a report estimating the impact of digital music streaming. In the US, it's an effort to look beyond direct revenues. Quite simply, streaming is a force multiplier for the broader economy. For every $1 in economic value generated by streaming, other sectors of the US economy gain an additional $1.65, an amount more than 3 times the value generated by the music industry as a whole, wrote CEO and President Geralt Levin in his introduction to the report. Ultimately, music streaming in the U.S. contributed to $14.32 billion to the U.S. gross domestic product, or GDP, in 2021. He continued, how? This is a mix of research and development investment, salaries, and job creation, advertising, real estate, and more. And I think that that's just a really interesting little tidbit about just how music and entertainment propel the U.S. economy and global economies in general. So yeah, and it's just a further testament of why it all matters, why we need subsidies, why we need tax incentives, so that we can continue making art, why we need grants and all of that kind of stuff so that we can continue making art, because it's good for everyone, it's good for everyone's quality of life, and, it helps the economy for you politician buttholes. Next up, music streaming platforms have clamored to attract Gen Z with good reason. The cool new kids outstream everyone and are pioneering new ways to engage with music. Yet they are spending more time on TikTok than streaming services might like. Meanwhile, streaming's grip on another generation appears to be slipping: millennials. In the U.S., not only are the 25 to 34 age group the largest consumer segment by age, but they are also the most likely to be music aficionados, those who spend the most time and money on music. This is partly a symptom of life stage. Millennials hit the sweet spot of being old enough to have a disposable income to spend money on music, but still young enough that music remains an important part of their lives. Knowing that 25 to 34-year-olds grew up amid the transition from physical music to streaming, we might expect them to be well adapted to the new platform. But in reality, these consumers are reluctant to give up the listening methods of their upbringing. United States 25 to 34-year-olds spend the least time streaming music of any segment under 45, and the most on other formats such as CD, radio, and vinyl. Nearly half say that they would give up music rather than TV and film if forced to make the choice, and many are considering canceling some subscriptions in favor of bundles. That is extremely important for the music industry to kind of take note of and adapt to, okay? For sure. The largest block demographic when it comes to, age groups not really being into your business model is definitely something to take into account. And also the fact that, Gen Z is spending more time on TikTok than we are streaming services. So yeah, definitely something to take into account. Streaming is definitely not going away anytime soon. I think that we know that. But we can see with Spotify, they've never had a profitable year. So there's obviously already kinks in the system. Many people are not happy with it. And some people just, as we can see, some millennials just don't even, why bother if I've got my 37-piece CD collection? All right, next up, William Packer, an influential media and tech analyst for BNP Paribas Exane, issued a research note with a surprising conclusion. Packer had decided a double downgrade on Universal Music Group's stock from outperforming to underperforming. A few things contributed to this decision, including doubts over the size of TikTok's payments to the music business and his assumption that most meaningful revenue boosts to UMG from streaming price rises may already be behind it. There was, though, one factor that stood out above any other in Packer's analysis: the potential impact of artificial intelligence on the music industry in the years ahead, and in particular on the major record companies. Packer wrote, AI is a new disruptive threat, where a glass half full industry industry narrative is holding for now, he added. While UMG is likely to remain a long-term winner from the digitalization, we think AI music is to emerge as a challenging thematic and drag on elevated multiples. Packer specifically argued that vast volumes of AI creative music could accelerate market share loss for UMG and other major record companies. I think this is really interesting. I think it's also really interesting that UMG is the company that filed the trademark for, as we were talking about, the, what is it exactly? Human artistry campaign. And there's going to be a couple of other stories about AI and UMG in today's episode. But yeah, they're really not mixing right now, those two. And so, UMG is going to have to take some action, and we'll see as we go on what action they're taking now. We already see with that campaign. But yeah, I think it's kind of naive to think that AI is not going to be disruptive. It's new technology, so things are going to change. But yeah, just staying up to date on things. That's why we do this. All right, moving forward. Another UMG story. UMG is reportedly pushing Spotify, Apple Music, and others to remove AI-generated tracks and cease allowing artificial intelligent models to analyze its artists' music on streaming services altogether. Interestingly, however, UMG, in a letter to streaming services, appeared to cite the lack of compensation and authorization, not the potentially devastating market effects of mass-producing music via AI, as the driving factors behind its qualms. We have become aware that certain AI systems might have been trained on copyrighted content without obtaining the required consents from or paying compensation to the rights holders who own or produce the content. UMG is said to have written to streaming platforms. Yeah, this is scary. I'm definitely glad that UMG is doing this, because there needs to be a precedent set on using other people's voices for AI music, and outlining compensation for that and how that's all going to work when it has to do with intellectual property. It's a very scary thing, and I just want to touch on two things specifically with it. So not only, do they want the tracks off, they don't want analyzation. So there's going to be certain algorithm things that they're, saying that they don't want anymore, because it's contributing to the AI being able to reproduce this content. And then the other thing is the note of, however, UMG in a letter to streaming services appeared to cite a lack of compensation and authorization instead of the potentially devastating market effects. So thinking short term opposed to long term, right? So, okay, right now, my artist is not being compensated and their voice is being used to generate this music, as opposed to my company might not be here in 5 to 10 years because I'm not going to be needed. And so I think that's really interesting, and I think that it's just a testament to how the industry has dealt with technological change. Like when we think about Napster, the reason that we are in the situation, shout out to Israel, one of my old professors, for implanting this concept in my brain and hammering this in, because this was such like a aha wake up moment for me. When Napster happened, the only reason we're in the shitty situation we're in now is because the music industry did not do enough research and development. They didn't buy companies in order to solve the problem. They just were fucking upset and wanted to sue everybody and didn't want to change. And then there was nothing they could do at the point when you can't arrest the entire nation. You can't sue the entire nation. And there was nothing they could do but concede to something like a streaming platform, instead of going to the South by Southwest and going to the NAMs and finding the small startup companies that had the answers, and reaping those benefits and working towards an equitable situation for the industry, right? Now we're in the shit pot where nobody's really getting paid through streaming unless you're at the top, and it's, you know what I'm saying? I hope that gives some insight to you on why things are the way that they are, and the fact that, new younger folks need to be in power play positions, because the reason that the industry just ends up waiting and waiting until there's nothing they can do but concede is because it's old people who don't want to change their way of thinking. They like their money the way that it is. They like the stability and the predictability of what's going to happen, and they're delusional. They don't want to do what the fuck needs to be done in order to move things along as a well-oiled machine, in my personal opinion. So, with that being said, let's move on. 2022 was a landmark year for Latin music in the U.S., with revenues surpassing $1 billion for the very first time, according to a new report from the Recording Industry Association of America, released Wednesday morning. Revenue for Latin music grew about 24% from 2021, significantly outpacing the 6% growth in the recording industry overall. According to the RIAA, Latin music now makes up nearly 7% of the market share for the entire U.S. market, up from 6% last year. Good stuff, not surprising at all. Reggaeton is taking the world over. Shout out to Bad Bunny. Shout out to Puerto Rico. Okay, some trends that are changing the landscape of sync and licensing. This would usually go in like the my like section, but we gonna talk about it right now. So first of all is the switch from linear to streaming platforms. Before streaming, music rights were typically cleared on a territorial basis for certain media during a given period. But given the global and more permanent nature of on-demand, rights typically have to be cleared on a worldwide basis for all media in perpetuity. So just changing the terms of these agreements in order to fit these territorial things, as they're saying. And it's really interesting if we go over to this article. Let's see what number we're at. 11. If we go over to this article, we will see this little graph right here. Streaming obviously is taking up a bulk and it's making up most, but cable and broadcast are still higher combined, you know what I'm saying? So there's still a ways for streaming to go. Terrestrial is not dead, broadcast is not dead, but it's definitely dying. I don't know if there is going to be a resurgence. I doubt it, just because most people are finding cheaper alternatives with Wi-Fi and streaming, and it's most likely like millennials and older folks, Gen X boomers, who are still on terrestrial. But with that being said, yeah, pretty interesting. But no, it is something that is important for folks to think about, because instead of, how they're saying, the terms being, okay, we're going to run in the U.S., we'll use commercials as an example, because to me it's a little bit easier to compare. So we will run this commercial for 6 months in the southeast of U.S. We'll give you an upfront licensing fee of $3,000, and you'll collect your back-end royalties. Doesn't sound too bad, right? That's now the terms are going to sound more like, here we're going to give you $5,000 upfront plus your back-end royalties to license your music in this this movie on Netflix forever. It's going to live there forever. Obviously, that's not how the deals with Netflix work, because they do them, it's cyclical. But we will be able to use your music in this production in perpetuity, regardless of where we license it to, and la 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 la. So yeah, something to think about. Yeah, stay up to date. It also makes it more complicated, which I will touch on. When you're dealing with smaller regions, think about it like taxes. It has to do with it, but think about it like taxes, right? If I live in one state, and I live in one country, my taxes are going to be one way. But if I live in one state and I do business all over the place, all over the country, all over the world, my taxes are going to look a little bit different because I have different governments to pay. Everybody has their own rules. And it's like that all over the place with a bunch of different things. So when you're having global agreements, it is way more intricate. Okay, I'm going to move on from this now. The second thing is that it seems like everything new is old on streaming platforms. And this is all because we're seeing more opportunity for content to be revived and repurposed across media outlets. This is all part of a strategy to spend less on new content and monetize existing content more effectively. So I'm sure that you guys have seen on Netflix, a bunch of older classic movies coming up onto the platform, and exactly like they said, they are exploiting their work. You know what I'm saying? They are just finding opportunity to continue to license their stuff after its peak of popularity and whatnot, and it's a cheaper alternative for a streaming service rather than getting the latest feature film. All right, next, and finally, is gone are the days when marketing for a new film or TV project involved a theatrical or TV trailer and a few billboards. In today's media landscape, getting the attention of consumers requires a myriad of approaches and real content mix across platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram. Throw in entirely new distribution channels like the metaverse, and you've got a whole world or several worlds of challenges when it comes to licensing music, particularly when different platforms operate with different rules, and some don't even have PRO licenses. So the first thing with this is there's so much more content to license music with. There's so many companies out there. There's so many people who want to market their stuff. And there's so many that are making so much content on their own. You multiply that by how many people are wanting to do it. There's so much content that needs licensed music behind it. The issue that we're finding is that the content, first of all, is coming out, being generated, and existing faster than our current infrastructure can handle when it comes to reporting, and when it comes to these companies having the understanding and wherewithal to have proper paperwork. But even with that, just the gray waters that we're in when it comes to Web3, and which is why it's so important to continue talking about intellectual property, how we feel about it in the Web3 space, so that we can make decisions on what the actual climate is going to be like in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay. Veteran UK-based electronic music firm AEI Media is launching a new offshoot called AEI Ventures. It wants to invest in new founders and startups in the music industry and hospitality sectors. But it's got a particular focus on people from historically excluded or marginalized backgrounds. The new arm will be funded by profits from the main AEI music business, with plans to offer funding, mentorship, and other support to the companies it backs. So yeah, if you're in the UK, go check that out. It could definitely be a really cool resource for you. We have 2 more stories left, y'all, and then we're gonna get out. We'll do some shout outs and stuff like that beforehand, but then yeah, it's time to go. Next up, we have Snapchat adding more music to its sounds library, and it looks to tap into the popularity of audio elements, which have been on a big rise since the back of TikTok's shift. Today, we are thrilled to announce that the Sounds Library is expanding with Snapchat's new music licensing deals with United Masters, Buma Sturma, Susia, Digital Licensing AG, which includes the repertoire of Susia, AKKA, LAA. There's so many different distribution channels on here that are all coming from different countries and multiple direct licensing publishers. But what is really interesting about this is, there's more independent music that's being licensed to Snapchat. I don't know, personally, I don't use Snapchat. I don't know how, poppin' it is. I'm sure it's still something that is prevalent with high schoolers and teenagers and stuff. But yeah, this is really cool. And if you are specifically, because I know the majority of you are probably if you are using any of these, you're using United Masters. See if there's a way for you to get involved and possibly get your music license through Snapchat. All right. Finally, or not finally, because I forgot about the story that I'm going to tell you that is not in here yet that I have to put. Second to last, on Wednesday, Gasolina became the first reggaeton song to be inducted into the National Recording Registry at the Library of Congress. It is one of 25 recordings and albums chosen for preservation at the nation's audio history library. That's a really big motherfucking deal. And I'm super proud of Daddy Yankee. And yeah, the article about this is like super heartfelt and super cute. So go check that out. Okay. The last thing that we're going to talk about real quick, which I just saw on Hollywood Unlocked, that I saw this story. I want to talk about it because it's really interesting. It's sad. But I think there's some stuff to talk about. My computer is almost dead. So we're going a little slow. But we're going to get there. Okay. Look at all those events. Oh, here we go. So this has to do with Angus Cloud, who is an actor on the show Euphoria. He plays Fez. Is this gonna open? But okay. We've got a bunch of different things going on right now. Okay. But essentially the actor who plays Fez, Angus Cloud, got blasted on freaking Twitter by his ex-manager for having a drug addiction. So there's a whole bunch of receipts, and it's just a whole thread of his ex-manager talking about the situation. And it's just quite interesting to me as a manager and as a talent advocate, because it's a really sad situation, right? So, detailing this person detailed Angus Cloud's addiction. And the detriment, I'm going to start with this first of all. The first slide, I don't want to show. Oh, never mind. Okay. The first slide is really interesting to me because it shows something that I think we need to take note of. So once it comes up. But this manager, okay, right, so you see this, a thread, right? This manager met Angus Cloud at a rehabilitation center. He had goals of becoming a talent manager and, as he says, picked up a graveyard shift at this rehabilitation facility. And who became one of the patients other than Angus Cloud? Right, serendipitous, right place, right time, okay? He ends up signing Angus Cloud, and Angus leaves his other representation. And okay. He establishes a lot of order. That's what he's talking about here. Angus, if you know the story of how Angus was picked up, he was scouted just hanging out, walking through. He was scouted and got the job for Euphoria. So he came into this industry, as his former manager explains, in a very non-traditional manner, and he did not have infrastructure or people around him who knew what to do with this. So he did not have the proper things when it comes to like legally, financially, any of that stuff when it comes to, having a career in this industry. So his at the time manager set everything up, established a new team. And he says in here just certain things that are off to me, right? Because it's like he helped Angus. I don't want that to be lost. He absolutely helped Angus. He was, I can say without doubt that he was instrumental in keeping Angus alive throughout this situation, and I don't doubt has a very strong care for him, right? He helped Angus a lot throughout this. But there are just certain things that are iffy to me. He explains that it was detrimental for Angus to not have relationships with the rest of his team when, that should be the decision of Angus, right? So rather than your manager saying, you know, you shouldn't deal with getting to know your agent and you're with sorry, with getting to know your agents, or if you're in music, you know, you shouldn't have to really deal with getting to know your A&R, your publicist, or your publisher. That's, to me, that's alarming, because what conversations are you having with these folks that you don't want me to hear about? It's a different situation if Angus was like, I don't want to deal with this shit, you handle it, right? But the way that he phrases it is, it was detrimental for Angus to not have relationships with these folks. And then he says, further on, it's like way later in this thread, but he talks about how he allowed Angus to travel alone. Language like that, for me, is just very iffy, right? It's like, what do you mean you allowed this grown-ass man to travel by himself to go shoot a video, or to go shoot, you know, a series that he booked? It's just things like that that are very interesting and confusing to me. You know, he details a lot of stuff in here, a lot of traumatic stuff that I do not doubt was traumatic for him to go through as, you know, the manager of an addict. But when you're talking about overdose, the person who overdosed went through the most trauma. I guarantee you that. And that's not to you know, shift, you know, blame or accountability or anything like that. But it gives me a funny feeling, you know what I mean? And obviously, I'm glad that he said, you know, pray for Angus, because Sam Lutfi is not a good person, the current manager that Angus has. But it just feels, you know, I hope that this person heals, and gets through what they need to get through, and I do hope that they get the money that they're owed, because the reason that this was all posted was because there's an outstanding $60,000 that needs to be paid. But, you know, as you said this in your thread, you know, there's several firms that are wanting to take on your case that you made it seem like pro bono, because you said you no longer, you know, need your GoFundMe fundraising. So why post this if you have lawyers who are taking action for you? This didn't need to happen. I'm sure they cleared this and they were like, oh yeah, because your lawyers want the airplay, they want to be able to say that they won the case, because they're probably going to win the case. If you have the outstanding balance, and because you know your shit, it's very clear that you know what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? You probably have documentation of it, and it's going to be a very cut and dry type situation. And your lawyers want that airplay. This is a very high profile case, and it's going to continue to be one because you posted shit like this. And you're exploiting that, and in my opinion, you're continuing to exploit Angus afterwards because you're using his name. Anyways, yeah, like I said, I don't want to like slam this guy, which I feel like I kind of just did. But that's not my intention, because like I said, I believe that he should get his $60,000 for the labor he put in. Like I said, I do not doubt that he has a lot of love for Angus. He definitely was instrumental in keeping him. He saved his fucking life. Like, let's be real with that. Considering the narrative in this post, you know, saved his life and put a lot of structure. And like I said, I don't doubt that he did not care for this person. But the fact that you knew what you were getting, I'm sorry. You can, with addicts, you can care and love and push and whatever as much as you fucking want, but you met Angus at a rehabilitation center. You knew what you were getting into, and having the delusion that you can fix someone before they're ready to be fixed is just doesn't work. And, you know, I hope, you know, I'm sure that you were a blessing in Angus's life and that he cares very deeply for you as well. But that man, I'm sure, is hurting right now. Like, what the fuck is going on? This whole thing is just very interesting. I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on it, because I'm a little confuzzled. Like I said, it feels weird with me, feels fishy. It sits weird with some of the language that was used and just the way that they met in the first place. But yeah, I wanted to put it in here because I think it's really interesting. And these are things that happen often within the industry with addiction and just battles specifically between talent and manager. So yeah, something to just, you know, formulate your opinions about if you choose to. With that being said, thank you so very much for watching, and huge shout out to Innerspace Orlando for being the reason we're so fucking cool. They're amazing, amazing sponsors. They love space over here, so there's Martians all over the damn place. What do we have coming up tonight? If you're on the stream or if you're watching, we are having an open mic night here at Innerspace where I'll be performing, and there's going to be a bunch of other amazing performances. So definitely come check it out if you are free. On May 6th, we've got the next jam session, and a little birdie told me that we're going to start doing those every other week. So we're going to start getting those more consistent, and having a bunch of motherfucking fun with that, because those are my favorite events to do. Other than that, tomorrow we're going to be on air with the Baddie Brigade, listening to just, you know, the music that we already have, because as you can see, we have no new submissions this week. I held it off because we only have like 3 or 4. So please, please, please DM me or send me an email with some music if you would like to have your music reviewed and possibly playlisted and played on the radio. If you don't know, the Baddie Brigade is the collective of the hottest, youngest, trillest bitches in the O, who work in entertainment. You know what I'm saying? We're all musicians. My girl Key is phenomenal on the camera and on the mic, as a host, as an MC, everything. Sai is an amazing host as well, an amazing rapper and vocalist, as well as an audio tech. So we just make an awesome team. And the Baddie Brigade doesn't stop with us. We want it to be you know, just a dope all-female promo team with just the baddest bitches all around the world. The Baddie Brigade is taking over. That's all I can say. If you're interested in having an interview, a commercial, doing any of our packages, definitely let me know, or let any of the girls know, because we're all taking on interviews and taking on that leadership role. So with that being said, what else do we got? What else? PJ, you got anything coming up? I'm gonna talk to him through the earpiece real quick. We have the Galactic Gaming Mario Kart tournament on April 27th. That's gonna be an absolute vibe. I'll probably be here because I love Mario Kart. Who saw the new Mario movie? It was amazing. I saw it in 3D. I was really angry at first because my movie theater doesn't take Apple Pay, so like I couldn't have snacks, and like, you know, like when you want snacks and you don't have snacks, and then you in the movie theater, everybody eating popcorn, drinking shit, and you can just smell, and I was so pissed off. And then I saw that I could like order it through my phone and pay through Apple Pay there, and then it all worked out. It was a great movie. Go check it out, and come freaking to Intergalactic Gaming Night. It's gonna be a dope ass time. Yeah, Innerspace is in Altamont. We're located in Orlando, Florida, as per usual. And we also have the 420 Wild 'N Out event with BMS that is also going to be taking place here at Innerspace. A bunch of cool stuff going on this month, so tap in with Innerspace, especially for the month of May, y'all. I'm gonna be traveling a lot, so there's gonna be probably like 2 weeks that I'm not doing the podcast. But you know, May 6th, like I said, we're gonna be streaming the jam session, so tune in for that. We got 1,000 views on the last one, so shout out to everyone who pulled up. I think it's so funny. Let me just say to you bitches who didn't come last time, because it was the smallest one that we've ever done, and it was the 3rd one. We had the most views on the live stream, so it was the one that you totally should have fucking been at, which just shows you should come every time. It's a donation-based event. You're not going to spend a bunch of money, and it's always going to be a good time. So with that being said, I'm going to shut the fuck up and sign off. Have a good rest of your day. I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Those eyes got me hypnotized, straight up mesmerized. We don't socialize around here, yeah. Cause you're my clique, yeah. Baby, say my name, play the game, learn the way, so we can get lost again, we can get lost. Cause I don't wanna waste your time, girl, that's a no-go, I'd rather be solo. Baby, you should take a trip on this side and see what it feel like. Got the Benzo riding low. There goes my darling. Before we can fly, we gotta know what it feels like.
love once more again. You ain't calling, and I know deep inside you know